When Steel talks, everybody listens.
We are here, and by we, I mean the younger movers and shakers of the New York Steelband community, along with When Steel Talks. But this is entirely an endeavor and an initiative of one of the younger leaders as to maybe it's about time that we heard their voices, got some real insight as to what really takes place, what goes on behind the scenes, what they endure, we would say for like weeks on end, sometimes months in advance as they search for panyards in the New York area to bring out New York Steel Orchestras for one night of Panorama. All the, or some of the issues that go into that one brief 10-minute performance on stage, which is right there, right then, and then gone, more or less forever. So they would like to give an insight to all the people who just come, sometimes just play for a week, people who just come to hang out at the panyards, into what really goes on and what it takes, and what they really feel inside. And this goes on a yearly basis. So welcome to many members of several of New York's Steel Orchestras. Forgive me if I don't say every single band, but please pipe up if I miss one. We have Vespers USA, Adlib Steel Orchestra, Crossfire Steel Orchestra, Pan Evolution, and we have Genesis, and am I missing anybody? Cassim?
I am. Nobody.
Okay,
Entertainment, get it right.
Quent. We all know Quent, and we're going to know even more of his thoughts as this event progresses. But I want to go first, if you will allow me, to Wayne. Wayne is the leader and founder, and essentially the backbone with his many helpers, but he's the key person behind Pan Evolution Steel Orchestra. This is the Panyard, which they rented and which will be history after, I think, the 19th. Right, so we decided that the Panyard, bereft of all the pans and racks that have already been packed, stored away, most of them, but this is a really great setting so that we can get into, you know, the nitty-gritty of what is behind a New York panorama for any given year, and from the younger leaders, movers and shakers, and all of these people grew up in Pan, which means at one point or the other, they might have been as young as 8 or 9, or in some cases younger. Now they are themselves young adults, and some of them have families of their own. Just to give you an idea of exactly what it takes and how the community grows up through the ranks when they themselves become leaders and in turn experience what they may not have had an idea of when they were pre-teens, what was actually going on behind the scenes. So we will start with Wayne Bernard of Pan Evolution Steel Orchestra. Wayne, give us an idea of what it took for you to even want to conceive this kind of gathering to give an insight from a younger person's perspective, but with still a lot of responsibility.
Well, the thought process behind all of this was to bring everyone together to discuss a lot of the trials and tribulations that it takes on a year-by-year basis to bring a band to the panorama for 8 to 10 minutes on stage. All right, so the thought process behind this gathering, this meeting, is to give a lot of the supporters of the Steelband New York community insight behind the trials and tribulations and the experiences that everyone here goes through on a year-by-year basis that it takes to get their respective band to the panorama competition. I know everyone, what they see is the final product that's on the stage. When a band is put together, when you have the whole production, when you have the presentation and the music going, but it's a lot of preparation, there's a lot of planning, there's a whole process that goes through it day by day. So I wanted to bring a lot of the arrangers, a lot of the band leaders, captains together, yeah. Even Point Rose is the true tune up.
And also
Yeah,
arranging is
and
on right
also
for the
arranging
young
right
people.
to let them give their insight of what it takes to help get those respective bands to the panorama.
Okay, great. Thanks, Wayne. Um, Anybody wants to like pick it up and just jump in there and share maybe something that really you thought this season kind of really took your attention and you'd like to bring to the attention of people who are involved in PAN and just say we love PAN.
Am I doing this?
I'll go.
Travis,
Might be alone.
Kasim.
Yeah, Travis Roberts Kasim. Basically, I've been doing this for a long time. Probably longer than some of these leaders here. But to bring a band to New York Panorama is very difficult. First thing, you have to find a space, which sometimes not very easy to find. Like Kasim uses schoolyards because it's just easy to get a permit and just use for practicing space.
Well, it's easier for you guys because you all are part of the education system for a number of years to a certain extent. You teach in the schools.
Kinda, but anybody could actually put in a permit and get a schoolyard.
But you guys are more or less in the system for a certain, unlike
Kind of.
You got it a little bit more under control than some of the other bands.
Actually anybody could put in a permit and get a school. We just like using schools. Other bands don't like it because they can't make a revenue because they can't sell alcohol and stuff like that on school premises. But anybody really can put in a permit.
Okay.
And get a school, really. But I just want to practice, and that's the purpose of getting a yard, is just to practice, not to make the extra money. I mean, it's nice to make the extra money, but we need to do other stuff to do that, we need that money. But so getting a schoolyard, and for years, as you know, a lot of times we get different location like this, and next year there might be a big building here. And that we went through a couple of years. We got us like in Clarkson, we had a place in Clarkson. Next year they had a big building there.
Yeah.
So
on Linden Boulevard.
The same thing.
Yeah. So it's difficult that everybody know. And again, bringing a band is very difficult. You gotta move your racks them or your pans them to the location. And sometimes you don't get the help from the players them or everybody.
Talk a bit about that. When you have a 100-piece orchestra or a 75-piece orchestra, and you have tenor players, you have all your other bands, but you have bassists. Talk about moving the band when it's left to just a key, 4, 5, or 6 people moving an orchestra of that size.
Well, I have a thing about this because I've been doing this for years, and it's always players come to you and like, oh, we're ready to go Panorama, let's go. But to move the equipment, you always find like maybe 5, 6 people moving a whole 100-piece band. Man, especially Panorama, the day after, when you hit that last note, bing, and they come off the stage, players like to just put their pans on the racks them or
change their
wherever.
shirt for the next band.
And and that's it. You don't see them until next year. And then the next year they come, they want to know where their pan is, where their racks is, but they don't know how it been moved. They only know like 3 people move a whole entire band. I have experienced it. Wayne has experienced it, and whoever here already experienced it. Yeah, exactly. That I hate, no lie. Because everybody, they love the whole Panorama experience, but they don't like to move the equipment.
And coming to the Pan Yards like 2 days before Panorama, 2 nights before Panorama to enjoy hopefully what's the whole song or the entire Labor Day 3-week activity, right?
Right.
Okay. Thoughts? Additionals? Come on.
What?
You all have a lot going on inside.
Yeah, you know what it is? There's an apprehension about exposing what's it's the dirty laundry. It's
the
like
underbelly of New York Pan.
yeah, okay. Like the thing about moving pans and racks, nobody wants to move a 6 bass. The bass player that plays that 6 bass don't want to move that 6 bass. I've only known 2 methods that work really well. One is that as soon, especially for Panorama, as soon as you're off the stage, the pans go back to the pan yard. That method works because you kind of bank off of the adrenaline of the player. It's a little easier to keep track of them because they're all right after the stage. The second method is to pay, I don't want to use this word lightly because some of them are my family, day laborers to help with the process. If the players decide, okay, we have to move the racks, whoever does not want to move their rack has to contribute $8 to get in their racks moved. That $8 will go to helping some hired hands move your racks. And that has helped. Remember the dues process where you had to give in, I don't remember how much it was, $20 I think?
$20, yeah.
And then when you got your $20 back? When you came back to the pan yard with your pan, here's back your $20. Otherwise,
Yeah, we did that a couple
Carlito,
times.
that's my family.
Okay, let's talk a bit about what it takes especially in the last few years, about getting players to the pan yard to take your music. Get that done in time for Panorama night, and preferably like a couple days before to get drilling done.
What is it like on the arrangers? How stressful is it on the arrangers when only 15% of their band shows up regularly to rehearsals? Could you tell us what that's like for the arrangers? Hi. I'm a last place arranger, so I just bowed out. I was like, I'm gonna make the pan sound better.
Well, I ain't have enough players, so I can't talk. Stay quiet. Talk to guys.
It's really tough. There's nothing to sugarcoat with that either. Especially like the week of, like trying to get the players to come in practice, especially when they're playing in multiple bands. That last week, everybody's trying to put down music and finish their song. So you're really depending on those that are coming in your own band to come in on time. But to get the song done on time, you really have to just make sure you have your music ready in time for the players that will come later in the night. Because for me in Crossfire, practice really didn't start the week of till about 10:30, 11 o'clock from the Wednesday. And that was tough because the song was done, but we still had some tweaking to do in between. So that took a toll on the whole vibe towards Panorama on the whole for me.
Okay. Now there are a whole lot of other issues that year in and year out are part of Panorama preparation. So this is your time. Let's go.
Issues. Trying to find a place to practice. We all see what's going on in Brooklyn right now. I know for Pan Evolution, like last year, we had a place that was right on Dibness in Louisiana. It's like not far from here, about a mile. And after Panorama, we had the thought process like, okay, this is a goal for next year. And then it was like as soon as the season was approaching, things changed, and all of a sudden it's like, well, what we had basically devised a plan around, now we have to scrap that plan and start all over again and start back with searching for a yard. And that's one of the things that is a challenge. Like just trying to start the season by securing a place, or from one year to the next, having a place, that's a lot.
What about the cost factor involved?
Cost factor right now, I mean, it really revolves around any owner or anyone that's subletting the open lot. So a lot of people may want to be greedy and want a lot of money. So you can look at anywhere from $2,000. That's really on the cheaper side to about $5,000 to $7,000 just to practice for about what most bands maybe a month and a half.
Okay. Y'all kind of quiet.
I don't know. Let me try to co-host. Hi. What kind of strain does it put on you as a player when you have to leave from work and then come to a practice at 9 o'clock, and then the arranger expects you to have 110% to play their music till 1 a.m.? Could you explain what that's like? In front of them, to their faces. You played their music.
I mean, it does get annoying because, I mean, you may have a stressful day at work and you come to a pan yard thinking you're about to play and you're about to have a full practice, and then when you get here, it's like you're wasting your time. So, I mean, it does
Who's
get
wasting
stressful.
your time? Or what is the cause of the waste of time?
Well, the waste of time is you coming expecting everyone else to show up and have
So
us
it's the other people not
right,
showing up on
other
time.
people.
Okay.
Because the arranger is, I mean, the arranger is gonna dish out their music, but it's up to the players to take that music and execute it. So I mean, you can't really put that strain on the arranger because it's up to the players to come and take the music. So if the players aren't coming, that is another strain on the arranger because they see that the players aren't making an effort to come.
Okay.
So if you're a loyal player, it does get annoying because other people aren't putting in that effort as you are.
And then just to piggyback off of what you were saying, like, what makes matters worse is that you hear, like, wiring players coming over and over again. But the problem is if you're a core member, and you come every single night, but you're basically being chastised for players who aren't here. And you're basically catching they buff. Like, but you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So it's like, it kind of adds to the strain of, like, well, why am I coming back if I'm just going to get booked for people who, like, I'm not even responsible for? But then also, like, to piggyback off of your point, where you're like, some people do have work and then they come in from work and then they come into practice, basically doing that system over and over. Like, if you work a 9 to 5 and you're not teaching, like, you basically still have to worry about your 9 to 5 after practice, during practice. Boy, let me make sure I get home and bathe and whatever so I get a good at least 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Because no matter what you're doing, that month of August for New York Penn is hard.
Yeah.
The practice still goes to like, what,
Yeah,
1:30, 2
sleep.
o'clock. For
School
bands who,
starts.
yeah, and school starts soon, and those of us in college have to leave
Yeah,
early
right
and all
there.
that. But like again, like if you work a 9 to 5, like you have to kind of make that judgment call in your head. Like, do I stay to practice till 1:30, and then somehow so I have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning for work, or do I leave early? Watch the arranger get vexed because not the whole band is not here. Like, what do I actually do? Like, you have to have that kind of conversation in your head as you're practicing the music. So,
Okay, so we don't want to see Europe can kind of like fall to the wayside in addition to all the other external environmental and societal factors because of people not being able to make it or not being diligent enough or respectful enough of other people's times to make it. So is there a possibility that people might want to consider, instead of going to Panorama with conventionally your 85 or in some cases or 100, in some cases 75, would you guys want to go with a smaller side? And I'm talking like about maybe 65 players of people who can actually turn up and do the time. Because it's a hard season, whichever way you look at it, but it's different and it's a little bit more bearable if, like as Marcus puts it or as Natasha puts it, you know, you're not sleeping, you're getting 2-3 hours sleep, but when you get to the pan yard, you know the person beside you respectful enough to try and do the same thing. So a smaller size steel orchestra, but with people who actually want to try this, as opposed to just sailing in whenever and wherever. Not everybody has that leeway, don't get me wrong, but do you think it's time to start considering that, especially for arrangers who have a musical vision, and just to expand about maybe 20 people beyond the stage side, so like say 55, 60, 70 max.
I think you would still have the problem.
Yeah, nowadays you can't even get a solid 50.
Because even stage side, even like stage side, when you have a stage side, it's hard. I think the problem is compensation for the players. Everybody's doing it, you know, just for the love, but there's a limit to how much love you love something.
So
And
then where does that
the problem.
leave your
Can we
then?
love
What
without
are
money?
we prepared to give up?
I don't know. Everybody's not the same. Well, all right, they said something about the players with 9 to 5. A lot of arrangers have 9 to 5s as well. He's just more passionate, I guess, because we're doing the music behind the scenes or whatever the case is, but it's just as hard. I mean, my problem as an arranger, a lot of people who complain, not necessarily everybody here, a lot of people that complain, they're in the yard anyway, but it's how they utilize their time. You're in the yard for 4 hours a night or 3 hours. What are you doing for the 3 hours? Are you being productive? For 3 hours, you're waiting. There's a lot of people that complain that they don't get their music tight because of band rehearsal. I disagree with that because when I was a player, I wouldn't wait until the band started drilling in order to get my music. I'll practice by myself. You understand? So
Talking
I feel
discipline, self-discipline.
yeah, it's a lack of self-discipline. And
I feel like we try to get those big numbers, like you said, we try to get to the 100 mark, and we start accepting a lot of people without discipline.
So this is what I'm saying. What are we prepared to do or entertain potentially?
I feel the problem is compensation. I feel like, it can't be just about the love.
Business associations.
Financial, yeah. Everybody should be compensated for their time. Everyone. Some way, somehow. Maybe whatever. Every member of the band. Every.
Kamal, you have thoughts? You're just looking.
It's tough. I was a player, I retired. I couldn't deal with it. As he said, Panyard open at 7, people were coming. First thing they do, they head to the back line. 9 o'clock, everybody come out, and then it's frustrating as well for the arranger to give music and everybody head on a different level. So nobody, when I came up in Despers, when you come to the Panyard, straight to your pan, you course, you practice, you ask for music. 7 o'clock we start to practice. We go and we used to go late. Now the cool thing is to start 10:30 at night and go 1 in the morning.
And get shut down.
And
Shut down 11.
that don't make sense.
All right, so we're looking at a couple core issues: self-discipline and self-respect for other players and for the PAN community. Because this is not the time. Even if you wanted to could have practiced till 2, 3 in the morning, or 1 or 2, you do have another issue of potentially practice being stopped by NYPD. So that's an issue. So even though you get your players, you still have to know what you are prepared to do. So we're back to the discipline in the pan yard, and as you said, when you came up, you guys grew up in the pan yard. When you guys were growing up, the level of informality wasn't happening. Now, it's impacting negatively and adding to the other issues. So as arrangers and in one case a band leader, the youngest one, what can be done about this? Meaning, next year is another year. When your players exhibit the same behavior, what are you prepared to request of them or else?
I think it's just like before you start music or before you start panorama rehearsal, to really try to have a general meeting with as much players as possible and discuss some of the pros and cons of what happened the year before. And I think if practice times is one of the things, I'm sure at this stage of the game, a lot of the players in the bands have jobs. So you could post at school, you could also post it to them like, hey, last year we went till about 1 o'clock in the morning, and that was a complaint, that was an issue for everyone. So if that's the issue, like, let's set up an actual practice time and stick to that. If we're going to say 7:30 to like 11 or 11:30, 7:30 to 11:30. If 20% of the band come in at 10:30, guess what? At 11, 11:30, practice is done. If they start seeing that after a while, then people will be like, oh, damn, they're really serious. I have to find a way, or I have to do whatever I have to do to get here on time to make practice. Or else, then I'm not making a cut for panorama.
Might be you might want to think about cuts before the time.
I mean, for real estate purposes, for stress purposes, for money purposes, smaller bands make more sense. When it starts talking about like how do we manage people and life, it's actually easier to do it with less people. If you realize that you have 20 young women in the band, because you have a 75, like if you have 70 people in your band, you're going to have a good one. If you got 20 young women in the band and 10 of them have children, it's easier to just pay somebody's grandmother to watch these kids. Right, like we just don't think about it. For some reason, we don't think that way. And I think that's why it makes it so hard for us to like deal with things. Like, I've been to multiple pan yards where practice is supposed to start at 9 o'clock. So people show up near 9 o'clock, either between 8:30 and 9:45, and then they try to learn the song at that point. Right. And part of that is just because the culture that they've learned in is this kind of like, there's meat in the water, be a piranha. And that's the informal nature that a lot of us started to learn as. You show up to the pan yard, and if you don't care enough to do it, you're going to get cut early, or they're going to treat you with a lot of native aggression, and then you won't be in the pan yard anymore. That's what it is. We know what it's like to be in a pan yard where someone kind of bullies you because you don't want to learn fast enough. That's actually part of the process. It's to start the nervous system so that your brain turns on. We don't got time. The song is 10 minutes, but you learn slow, so we got to keep pushing you. But we don't have this conversation, right? You learn slowly. With the way I teach you, you don't learn fast. So I gotta kind of push you and be nasty to you. You gotta show up to practice at 5 o'clock. When you start ending practice at 11 o'clock, they take you seriously. It's just like church. You know, just like church. We've been to church services that are slightly too long.
Well, I think.
Yeah, but it's just that. Yeah.
Idea of maximum 75 is a very good idea because from last year this to this year this is that you're gonna grow, everybody fluctuates, but if you have a cutoff point now at say 75, I only have 20 tenors, so then we had to fight for 20 tenors instead of the max is 100. Oh, a tenor man come, alright, let me get a tenor for him. Let me get a tenor for him, and it kind of dilutes what you have. So if you have 75, it's a good idea, but if bands go on and stick to that. Or as individual bands, I think that's a decision individual bands will have to work.
Because if you have 75 people who you know when they give the arranger and instruct the arranger's music and they give a fair and even better account of what the arrangers are hoping for, then you're on the track to having a successful performance for Panorama. It's not necessarily about the numbers. Hey, I love 120 pieces orchestra, but can 120 people perform? We don't do 120 in New York officially, but yeah, a tighter core with people who can get there on time. Thoughts?
I feel like that number is, you're not going to get 75 people giving 100%. I feel like that number they're talking about is 15 or 20.
Oh yeah, but no, we're not talking about anything 100%, but we're talking about them actually making it a little bit hopefully easier on the arrangers and making sure that you have less peripherals and less fringes and fronds like here that you can't keep under control. Because when you have a set of people who know what you want and they understand the music and they got it, and then you have to take the time at the last moment for people who corners in the other couldn't make it, then you have issues. Audrey, you have experience in the UK, in New York, and also in Trinidad and Tobago. Not using Trinidad and Tobago as a yardstick, what do you think yourself as having been involved with Pan, and that was your life, music was your life, from being someone who was really young, about 8, 9, or maybe younger, growing up? 7? Okay, 7 years old, growing up, and now you yourself are a leader in the community, especially as an arranger. What are some of your thoughts as to what's really impacting?
But to begin with, the idea that the younger generation has come up with is that they know it all. I mean, every person, you know, when we were younger, we were told the same thing. Oh, you feel know everything, you feel know everything. But the younger generation, they come in with this mentality that you can't even really approach them. You know, we have that issue in my own band, Pan Evolution. Myself and Wayne, where we have a lot of younger players. They're great players, very good players, but they have this ego, this kind of mentality like, I know, don't tell me nothing, I know.
Then you don't need them.
You know, it kind of throws off the whole process because this thing, I always tell my band, I mean, at the end of the day, when we go on stage, the biggest name on the banner is not my name, it's not his name, but Pan Evolution or whatever the band is, Desperate Chasm. So that's the fundamental thing we got to go with. That it's a unity thing, and even as a collective body of Steelband, we gotta come together now and understand that we gotta save this culture, and even start to teach these youth people the right thing. I mean, I noticed that even online, Point has been trying to teach them theory. That's gonna help us on a collective effort. You know what I mean? Because we need more players to start to understand the music quicker. And I felt like even when we were coming up, I grew up playing piano with Shadi, right? When we come up, she could tell you right now, we had to know all our scales. We had to know all the chromatic. We had to know what key you're playing at. Because we made it, we in a way, the elders made it that way, but we made it that way amongst ourselves. Like if you didn't know, you wasn't, like Quentin said, you wasn't messing with you. You was on to the
And
next
that's
one.
key, as you said, the elders, and now you guys are the young
Right.
elders. And so we're back to the discipline. You yourself now are an elder. I mean, okay, you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm old
but
now,
it's-
I'm old now.
No, you're not old.
Retired.
You institutional knowledge.
No, but-
And I think, especially that you guys, a lot of your players are your ages, but somehow you still have to find a way of having them get that respect. And if they don't, then you thank them for their time. And because at the end of the day, New York can and culture and communities are at stake, and the art form. Right? So you guys have some burning issues. People are kind of quiet. So we spend a lot of time on what is essentially the norm, but we want to get to some of the other issues before time becomes crunch. Mark, you were paddling for the last couple of years,
Yes.
also with New York Fan Stars.
Yes. So I know Andre was talking about young people, right? And I agree. A lot of young people nowadays, you can't really tell them much. And aside from arranging, I do a lot of work with young people. And what tends to happen is that young people operate off of an incentive system, right? If you do this, you will receive this, right? I feel like when we were younger, all of us, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we were younger, we had a lot to look forward to, right? And when I say a lot to look forward to, it may not necessarily be money in that form, but in terms of events, right? The outcomes of these events, you were able to see yourself on multiple platforms for whatever event it was, right? Whether aside from Panorama, you may have had solo competition, right? You may have had like multiple band launches that had actual effort and time put into them in terms of coordinating properly, right? You had Christmas shows, you had these things, right? And also for Panorama, we used to collect this dual DVD, right? Side A and side B, in which case you get to see yourself after a certain point and as a take home, right? And I remember, if I'm not mistaken, about 3 years, there was no recording of what happened or no documentation of what happened for Panorama, right? And at that point, events began to die down, right? There weren't as many events anymore. There weren't as much relationships being built with business owners so that we can rent out spaces for these events that we did. And then we end up coming back to a point where we have now events, and now these events don't necessarily have adequate sound, or they don't necessarily take into account I guess, they don't have the best interest of the steel bands per se, right? It's kind of a secondary thought. So on this day, this is what they do, so we'll put this together and this is what they have, right? Granted, I know there are some forces that are generally working towards it, but then other forces are just like, well, let the chips fall where they are, right? It's not necessarily they are the primary focus. Well, us as the steel band community anyway, we're not the primary focus. And so at the end of the day, when you tell younger players, let's do this, let's work hard because you then can attain this, what exactly is that outcome that they're looking at, right? What exactly is that incentive that they're looking at? And it's, for many of them, doesn't exist. Because if they can't then see themselves at the end of the day on a platform somewhere, they ain't doing it. And if you look at it, right, Panorama, some people talk about Panorama as being the pinnacle, and it shouldn't be that way. I agree, there should be other things. But aside from that, when can a player say, I see myself now playing, or I see myself, or Tanty, come and watch me, right? Or Granddad in Trinidad, come and watch me, I'm doing this now, right? When else can they do that? Other than Panorama. It doesn't exist currently, right? Or if you say, well, listen to this is what I did, right? If somebody listens to it, maybe they can't get a full vision of how it's supposed to sound because it doesn't sound the way it should. You understand what I'm saying? So again, an incentive is important. And so if we're gonna talk about the young people who know it all, right? Sometimes if they have an incentive, that is a good way to tell them, well, you know what? If you do this, this will happen, and they'll actually be with you. They'll be on board with your thought process. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So hear your thoughts, general, and it doesn't have to piggyback off of what anyone else said, but this is essentially a forum as to what it takes, what people have been through, and readers should been through. So, anything you want to share?
I mean, I kind of look at it from, try to look at it from every angle, because I was a player once too. But like Andre said, when we grew up, like we would be in the pan yard 3 o'clock. There was no incentive. It was, there's music happening. I don't have the music, or I just wanted to go to practice. So we would be in the yard 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and going down the road. There was no incentive. And then you look at it from the management point of view, and it's like nowadays, and I think what it is too is now the younger generation are the ones kind of taking over the bands, but the kids in the band are around our age or a little bit younger, and they looking at you like it's a friend thing, right? So when you try to talk to them and lead them in a direction where like, look, this is what we're trying to do, it's like, don't, like they said, it's more of like a don't tell me that. You know what I'm saying? And in a business, like I tell people, in a business, if this is your job, and it's not their job, because again, we're not, sometimes, how many of us really every time paying our players, but if this is your job or something you're looking to do, at least give 100%, you know? You can't half it and say, I love this, right? Because I love it too, and I gotta work just like you. So if I'm saying, all right, watch me, you gotta lead by example. Right? You got to lead by example, and I feel like a lot of us here try to lead by example, but you got the kids that are like, yeah, it's just, that's the mentality that we have right now, which kind of, and it plays into what's happening in Pan, right? Because nobody wants to deal with that. Wayne don't want to deal with that every day. Odie don't want to deal with that every year. Like, it's frustrating as an arranger, as a captain, as a player who's loyal and is always there. It's a frustrating thing, and that's what kills the culture as well. When you get frustrated, you don't want to do something anymore, even if you love it. You know what I'm saying? Andre could love it as much as he wants, but eventually he gonna get frustrated, you know, but he gotta keep pushing, you know?
So we're talking about some pruning again. We're back to the, I'm sorry, I mean, it seems to be coming down to that at some point.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, once you cut down the amount of things, the quality increases. Like, we know that there are people in the band that are there because they don't want to be home. There are people in the band that are there because it's a habit. And then there are people in the band that want to play and are interested in being better players. Those people, like when I hear you all talk about like when we were younger, also consider that part of our generation is an honor code. We actually know what it was like to do something for the sake of doing it well. See how we all nod our heads? This generation doesn't care about that because they've never had to create anything. And most of the things that they have been automated, digitized, and handed to them. And that comes across like, oh, that's excessive, but it's true. The culture that they lived in have had parents that were so young, they didn't know how to create or build anything. So their parents have done nothing but purchase things and hand it to them. Our parents lived a different life. Most of our parents, right, you see we're nodding our head, most of us actually have relationships with our grandparents. Like, that's a missing element because it means that the sense of tradition doesn't exist. That idea that you're connected to something bigger than yourself doesn't exist. The most that a lot of Caribbean American children feel connected to their culture is food and music, fete. When it comes to Pan, they see that as like a component of fete. So they don't take it with the seriousness of, I'm an artist, I can control people's movement. Like we were talking about that earlier today, like I can be an antidepressant with 2 chords. They don't think about stuff like that, but that's what it is.
Well, just to piggyback on that, I mean, when we first started Pan Evolution, one of the things that I tried to implement, because that was one of my main things. How were we going to compensate our players? And obviously Wayne was like, yeah, we want to make sure we pay all our players. I said, Wayne, you gotta be practical. When we start off, we ain't gonna have no money. You can't pay nobody. Let's be real. So I said to him, what I plan on doing is showing them what wasn't shown to me growing up, which was how can I take this instrument and make money with it? Because I do this on a daily basis. So what do I do to make money? And I try to show my players that, like, okay, bro, you want to do this? Take some tracks. learn these kind of skills, learn these chords, learn how to improvise, learn these tunes, and then you go and cut your gigs on your own. You can ask them. I've taught my own personal improvisation classes with my band. Another thing I try to do is, you want to be an arranger? All right, everybody that's on my stage side is required, that's my captain, is required to do one song per year. He's also on my stage side. Everybody who's on the stage side is required. So this way, pass, fail, or indifferent, you're getting a knowledge of what I go through, number one, what it is to create, and how to appreciate it, and how to manipulate, and how to, you know, so we all understand the big picture of what we're really trying to do as a band. And I think that's where, that's a different way of trying to compensate our players and get them interested. Because everyone wants to do music. Everyone wants to be the arranger. And I'm going to get to that. That's another point I want to get to. Everybody wants to be the drummer. Everybody wants to be, you know, the soloist at some points, you know, especially when the Ramajay Park come on. Everybody wants to solo. And I want to solo for about 10 minutes more. You know, so those are ways we try to help them progress in that light and show them, okay, this is how you do it. And then at the same time, you show them that I'm teaching this for free, something that I probably had to pay for, that he probably had to pay for, that she probably had to pay for, that most of us had to probably pay for. And show them that's we're giving this back to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's another way I feel like that we continue to compensate our folks.
Okay, let's talk about Panorama 2019, the show itself, and of course the experiences of the season. And we'd like to get that in there before, you know, close on. So in terms of the season, the experiences, the event itself, on stage time, what do you feel about what the audience might have heard in terms of your final product? Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just going to throw the dynamite out there. So 2 elephants in the room that I just, like a lot of Panorama I could kind of make sense of. The judges scoring and the way that the point differential was, I'm going to get back to y'all on that. I got to see all these judges things to make sense of a pattern or a lack of pattern. But 2 elephants in the room, why Genesis wasn't allowed to go to Panorama, and the sound system for a music competition should at least sound okay. Those 2 things are, I can't exactly get my head wrapped around them. Because with Genesis it comes across as like retributionary or punitive or to embarrass. I just can't figure out what the hell the problem was. And then with the sound system, I know that I know that Whitaker's officials are older and are older people, but they should be able to tell that that does not sound good. Someone should make sure they take their medicine. It's terrible, and it's terrible standing near the bleachers. See what I'm saying? So it's like it can't sound better next to the speaker.
Go back to your first point.
Yeah. Good one.
I think
Please
us
share.
overall need to really harp on the fact that, you know, Genesis not being able to participate was complete nonsense. I wasn't here.
I'm sorry.
I said Genesis not being able to participate in this year's Panorama was nonsense. And this is from somebody who wasn't even really present when the whole situation was going on. But I know for a fact that most of us, at certain given points of this season, if you'd have went into the Panyard, you wouldn't have seen a full complementary of players.
What's the full complement?
That's the thing. You know what I mean?
Is there, okay.
We didn't have, there was times you could come in here, I'm pretty sure you probably see about 15 to 20 people.
15 to 20.
That would probably been our bad night, you know?
So, question, first of all, is there, and we do have leaders here, as far as you are aware, is there any official rule that you have been ever told that you had to have a minimum of, say, 50 players 2 weeks before Panorama, and then there would be a head count before you were allowed to pull for appearance? Is that something that any of you all are aware of or have been requested before this year?
I've never even seen Whitaker people in the Panyard within the weeks.
Has it ever happened? Are you aware of that in the history of the competition?
Well, I never heard of a head count.
2 weeks before.
2 weeks before,
In
1
the
week
yard.
before, night before.
They don't even ask a head count on
Okay.
stage. They had somebody ask a
Travis,
member of
you're
the
a
band how
leader.
many people are there.
Have you ever had an experience as a leader passing that there's been a head count 2 weeks before, so you can pull numbers.
No, there's no rule like that according to
You
the
know, there's no rule
no,
like that?
because basically the rule says I had to read it out, and it basically says a registered band of Whitaker must have a minimum of 50 players and a maximum of 100. That's the only rule that concerns it. So the band have to be on stage.
For that head count to take place.
Right, not before that.
So, Sade, why do you think a non-existent rule was enacted with the Genesis Band group? And are there any legal repercussions for, this is just a question as to your thoughts. Any legal repercussions possible for an event that is supposed to be open to steel orchestras that do head counts on stage and not 2 weeks before?
There definitely could be legal repercussions, of course, because they went against their own rules. Their rule, like Travis said, like I went over the rules because I wanna double check myself. Because again, since I've been small, coming up, I've never seen anyone come in the pan yard and like, all right, let me do this head count, right? But for me, it started off as, all right, we doing this. When it was time to do the intent form, we were there, right? They were told about meetings. We didn't get told about meetings. Fine. I'm calling. They said they calling me. We doing a back and forth thing. So then now I show up, right? Okay, fine. Then it's like, well, the band leaders are telling me this. That's what it started out with. The band leaders are telling me this about Genesis. Well, that's fine.
Who's me? Or what's me?
Huh?
Who are you speaking about in terms of...
So Joyce is telling me.
You talking about Riata?
Yeah,
Okay.
Riaka. Okay. All right, if you don't want to use Joyce, if you want to go under the umbrella of Riaka,
Okay.
it's telling me the band leaders are telling her Genesis don't have enough players to go to Panorama. I said, Ms. Joyce, I know the rules. 50 on stage. Sade, you can't come if you don't have 50 there. I don't see 50. Don't come on my stage with 30 players. Ms. Joyce, I know. Good. Fine, we moving on. You come in my yard now with like people at Whitaker or Riaka, whatever you want to call them, is telling me this now. Now it's people at Riaka is telling me this. So you come while I'm practicing with players in the yard, right? It's not like you came and saw me hanging there with a bunch of racks talking to Casper. You saw me giving music, people practicing, call me over and it's like, nah, this can't work. This can't work. I don't see 50 players here. I come to pick numbers because now you can't tell me that because again, the rules don't state that. I go to pick numbers and you start off one time like, no, only 8 bands could pick. I don't know why, right? If it's not the band leaders, it's not Reactor, then who is it? And why is it?
Did it occur to any of the fellow band leaders who are picking that maybe this was a time for solidarity or an attempt at solidarity?
What you mean?
In terms of, since there was no legal reason why Genesis should not have been allowed to pick, that maybe the others could have said, well, what is the rule? And if we can't see the rule, then maybe we should consider choosing numbers at this time. Did that occur to anyone? Or was there any talk about that or any attempts at that?
No, that talk actually didn't happen. It should have happened.
Okay.
It kind of didn't happen because an argument kind of grew.
Okay.
We started with myself and Whitaker because I tried to back the reason why they wasn't allowing her to participate. So I guess between all that whole detailed conversation, the thought of just no band to pick at that point didn't happen, which I kind of regret now since that happened. But really and truly, all 9 bands should have was able to pick because the 9 bands was registered. They didn't have no valid reason why she wasn't supposed, that Genesis wasn't supposed to pick.
So without knowing, without there being no legal precedent as far as you don't know what's the state of Genesis Band Room next year for 2020 if you decide to consider competing again. One does not know what's going to happen then.
No.
Okay. Thoughts?
I mean, to me, that it seems like you have like a legal argument for like multiple things. One, the fact they basically breached their own contract with the registration details, and 2, as you just mentioned, defamation of character. Because now next year, you could try to get players. You could try to, of course, both of you. I could try to get players, but then they hearing this negative connotation of Genesis. Well, they didn't get players last year. I doubt they're gonna get players this year. So it's like well, you can't pull your band and you can't like ever come to this panorama because players are weary of whether or not they should play with Genesis. It's like if you can never get the players, it's all started because of this one incident. So in a sense, that is a defamation of character. My words.
I've been doing that since 1994.
You've been doing pants since
I've been doing pants
1994?
since 1994, and
Okay.
I've never heard of
Random spot check.
yeah, I've never heard of the organization. I've never heard of the organization walking into a band's panyard a week or 2 weeks prior to the competition and doing a head count. Also, off of that, I had the time to sit back and watch on Facebook several videos that's been shown back as memories. And just a couple of years ago to see how many bands were in Panorama, and then to actually think now that the organization stopped an upcoming band or a new band from wanting to enter is just mind-boggling. And as you asked Travis if anyone, or as you asked, if anyone at the moment when they were pulling numbers decided to speak up, I believe Genesis decided to have a petition go around
4 bands
stating,
signed it.
yeah, for the band to sign. And I know on the behalf of Pan Evolution, I myself signed.
Yeah.
And I can't speak for whoever else signed, but I know I signed.
Sign a petition.
I did.
Yeah.
All bands.
Ad-lib.
That's where it's ad-lib,
That's
Paso.
Yeah,
Huh?
4 single orchestras.
Despots, Peso. No, because that night was kind of weird. Meeting started and then all of a sudden they say, oh, I'm not having this here tonight. I'm like, having what? I was totally lost
Okay.
of what was going on.
We have to stop
When we
doing
went to
business
put-
with people that don't
This
know how
is
to.
fine, and it's interesting that point is going there because that's what I want to say. It's like
Exactly what I said.
Pan in New York has been operating under the aegis of what promoted for the last however many years, like since what,
50.
19, what?
The thing is that they're going towards
At
it
least like 40 years, 45 years,
Yeah.
okay? And it's with the exception of a couple of breakaway years, 2001, 2002, and a couple times before my time, it seems as if nothing has changed. There seem to be issues, and there seem to be, there are always issues. If it's not the Genesis Pan group, sometimes it's more bands involved for whatever reason. Although this one is probably the more unexpected occurrence and one that's never occurred before. Polite about it. So, what happens next year?
Should I say what I was talking about?
Same old khaki pants.
We don't know yet.
We have no idea.
There is no full unity among Steelband in Brooklyn.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that if 2 or 3 bands say, look, we want better for ourselves, we want more for our culture, we want a higher platform, elevated respect, you think that if some sit out, some others will instead fill their place?
Will go.
Yeah.
Others will
So
go because they will look at
unity
it.
is the
If
problem.
Despots pull out, if Kasim pull out, if Peso pull out,
You still have others who will go
we're glad because you know what?
have a
There's
better
my
chance.
opportunity.
to win. So we have a pan community culture here.
Yes, I mean it's representative of culture in general.
Yeah.
Just like on jobs,
Yeah.
I was in a job.
Undercutting,
We decided to strike, and a couple of guys came
broke the
to
picket
work
line.
and like,
They broke the picket line.
and they all would benefit if everybody stand together. But for some strange reason, I don't know.
Well, collectively, we have to ask ourselves, what do we want? Like, why are we going to Panorama? Are we going to Panorama to win?
Bragging
Are we
rights.
going to Panorama for bragging rights? Or are we just going for the appearance fee
Bragging
and
rights.
whatever else happens, whatever else happens? Because if you have bands that just going for the appearance fee, then they just going to, if it's 3 bands, if it's 20 bands, they still going to go.
What is the appearance fee, by the way?
4,500. I mean,
When is that paid?
when?
Isn't that based on tickets?
Well, the last meeting we came from, it was said soon.
Okay, so wait, Panorama has finished for 2019.
Yeah.
You've not gotten the appearance fee yet?
Well, I get half a part of mine.
And to me, that's another part. To me, it's like willingly going to buy your groceries from a 99-cent store when there's like a grocery store, a Walgreens, a Whole Foods like right next to it, you know you're gonna get better quality. You have a better chance of living because the food probably not expired yet.
Bobby's apples, boy.
But you're still willingly going to this 99-cent store because it's what you're used to. And frankly, Viadka has dropped the ball time and time again. They find ways to drop the ball in different aspects. And it sucks because like you have a whole bunch of like a whole culture that wants the best for Pan, but they're all under this one umbrella where it's just like, well, the promoters,
Okay.
well, we willingly all collectively go to the promoter who we know for a fact is not going to give their best in producing what we just literally spent a month and a half, 2 months, some 3 months, and they still get their money, they still get their vendors, they still get whatever,
So,
like we're still part of their weekend.
You mentioned their money. Are we talking corporate sponsors then?
Correct.
So is it time to address corporate sponsorships who support the promoters with the idea and with the expectation that the community that they supposedly serve is indeed being well represented, but that's not in fact the case?
Yeah, we have to be careful about that. A lot of steel bands talk about wanting to be sponsored because they want the alleviated financial
Well, I'm
burden.
not talking about the sponsor to the steel officers. I'm talking about the corporate organizations that support the ADCA.
Right, they're generally
And
through
so-
grant-based
and so
funding.
therefore, yeah, the funding that goes with the expectation that funds are going to be properly utilized, and the community is going to have the opportunity, if able to, for instance, in the case of Genesis Pan Group, to participate under stated rules, and things like that don't happen. Is that another course for thought?
Kind of. I think that the number one problem is that we make the mistake of associating culture with the things that we've done. By that, oh, we want to do Panorama because it's part of our culture. A large steel band event where calypso music is the main source of entertainment is the culture. We call it Panorama, so we have to be careful about just being okay with all the negative things associated with Panorama for the sake of perpetuating culture. Like at this point, we should be able to say, these things typify what is beautiful about Trinidadian culture and Panorama. Let's figure out a way to get those things. Because the things that we don't like about Panorama have nothing to do with Trinidadian culture. I want you to think about it. Like we're now so focused on the way people have treated us, the lack of contracting, quite frankly, the government part of how money and how we got there is that we don't care. That's why so much of it is not about caring about what they do at the pan yard. That's why they start practices at 11 o'clock, because there's not that underbelly of caring about the actual culture. I think we just need to rethink it, because trying to change the rules, going to WIADCA as 10 bands, as 15 bands and saying, we want you to do this. Whoever's willing to take the appearance fee is going to go. So stop worrying about who's going to go and just figure out something else. That's why I love events like Pan is Sweet. I love when steel bands have their own random concerts. I love when school bands have their own random concerts, because it means that Pan is still existing without someone handing them something and saying, please come here and entertain me because I got some extra money. Right, the incentive becomes for them to perform. So we just really need to rethink New York. New York is not Trinidad. It doesn't need to be. It's not Canada. It doesn't need to be. As a matter of fact, it's New York. It needs to be something unique, and I don't think that we're trying hard enough for it to be anything unique.
Okay. You mentioned the appearance fees. What about what was the price structure for this year? Was that communicated officially?
No, I mean, the price structure been the same for the last like 15 years.
Which is what? What's the first, second, and third
First
prize?
place is 20,000. Second place is 15. Third is 10, and then everybody has a 4,500 for appearance fee.
Okay, so have the. Okay, are you happy with that?
No.
20,000 first
No.
prize. Okay, so
No.
you're not happy.
I've been one of the person every meeting stating that the prize money should raise. I'm gonna say since 03, when the two panoramas came back together.
And actually, that's why Miyako went up to 20,000 because of that breakaway factor for those few years.
Right, like in the last meeting, I made a good point. Basically, that's when the money went to $20,000, and from since '03 until now, it's the same. The ticket prices then.
Without 2001 and 2002, you would not have been at $20,000.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And since '03,
it's been the same 20,000.
The same 20,000. The ticket price then was maybe like $30 to enter the venue. Then it went up to $40. Then it went up to $45. So the ticket price has risen.
For the panorama.
Our price has not.
Okay, so two things. We're talking New York Panorama. Given the fact that you have to pay, just generally speaking, for your pan yard, not every single band has every single expense, but by and large, that's what it is. You have your pan yard expenses, you have your pan tuning expenses, you have your
arranger
equipment expenses, you have your arranger expenses, your uniform, transportation.
Welder. That welder is an unexpected.
Trucks.
Transportation, right. So, on the record, and on average, we have family discount, we have people who are paying out of their pockets and however else. The average that you put out per year, if you were to look at the books, what are we looking at per band? On average, yes.
My thing is this, right? If you look in New York City itself, within the past 3 years, the pay structure for as an individual employee, right, has gone up, right? And right now we're currently at $15 an hour, right? Yeah. A summer youth worker makes $15 an hour, right? When I started summer youth, I was making $6 an hour, right? Which technically was supposed to be $5.75, but I got 6. I was lucky, right? That was in what, 2000, right? Okay. We're saying in 2001, 2002, the pay increase for bands, right? Now, all right, that's inflation that's causing this dramatic increase, right? Now, if you look at it, cost of living adjustments that many people have received over the years, because this has been the standard for most businesses, right? This is also associated, well, it comes with everything else that people has called out, right? The cost of a welder, that price hasn't shot up, right? The cost of materials, that price has shot up. The cost of transportation, these prices have shot up, right? All these things have happened, right? And over the years, no one has seen it fit to increase because these things have happened, right?
Well, it's not that no one has seen it fit. It's been one promoter. So.
Well, I was speaking in general terms, but yeah.
It's one promoter. It's not no one has seen it fit. The participants see it fit, but the participants return year after year for the same price. Back to the original question in terms of a ballpark figure for the band to come to Panorama. We're talking 65, 75, 80,000. We're talking
the overall cost.
Overall cost on average.
The yard costs about $2,000. Paying the arranger may cost around $2,000. I'm trying to lowball it.
No, we don't want to lowball.
2,000 a month, 2,025, 3,000.
Let's get a ballpark figure. You all are involved.
15. It costs about $15,000
per band.
Yeah. It depends on the band.
I say 15.
15,000 to go to Panorama. What about your tuners?
Depends on the band.
Tuners, the equipment, rental.
Yeah, all
there's the major cost. Major cost.
10 to 15,000.
Yeah.
Major cost.
And that depends on your band.
Like, I mean, yeah.
If you're an established band, the cost is that low. Yeah. If your band is established, it's going to cost 10 to 15,000. If your band is established, if you are a new band,
you think it's more?
Are you all in partnership with a promoter? Do you feel that way?
No.
Partnership
with White Girl. In any sense.
In any sense. Is there an obligation?
You're like a partner?
No obligation.
No, there's no obligation. We willingly go back to them every single day.
We are willing participants of the madness.
Because at the end of the day, Brooklyn Steel Orchestra does Pan and Suite every year. We could stop the Pan season at Pan and Suite, but we say, oh, that Panorama itch, it bites in, boy. I have to play Panorama.
Okay.
Do it again.
So the top figure to going to Panorama with a 100-piece steel orchestra or 85 or 75, if you took care of all your expenses, you're saying it's about 15,000 max.
if
No,
the band is established. If it is a
Major
new
expenses.
band, the expenses
Major
are
expenses?
Yeah,
Lot
major
more.
expenses.
it's a lot
We're
more.
talking all
Panyard,
expenses.
Panyard, tuner,
Tuna,
arranger, uniform,
Trucks.
instruments, trucks, transportation.
Generator, gasoline, lights.
There's those five,
Wow.
there's those
You
five.
have to have a
There's
toilet.
those five.
People forget how much it costs for a
15,000
porta
over
potty.
Okay,
And
and
we ain't talking about everyday expenses. We're talking about coming up expenses.
okay, so give a ballpark figure. That was the original question. Quickly.
If your band
say-
has 100 members, if your band is trying to get to 100 members and you don't have 100 pans, you then have to spend money on instruments.
Okay.
So that's a whole other
we're
thing
talking
that
about
have to
the
like.
established band.
If you wanna lump all of that,
Yes,
everyday expenses,
yes.
you can have anywhere 20, 25, $30,000.
Okay, so 35,000 based on.
A summer.
Yeah, if you're looking at everyday expenses along with the major factors that
Yes.
it takes to
Okay.
get to Panorama,
So therefore, 35,000 without thinking about people who actually contribute.
you're right.
Right,
Coming out of pocket
35,000,
and all that stuff.
and your first price is $20,000. So somehow, guys, the math does not compute, and it hasn't computed for a while. So 2020 is a brand new year. We'll see what happens. How's the payment structure in terms of when do you guys get paid? You get paid in time, so you know you can.
What is in time?
I don't know. This is what this is about.
get paid
so
at
let's talk
A
about
time.
it.
Because
There is no
Have you
time.
gotten paid
the
for?
last meeting, they said soon, and my question soon was, my soon is 2 days. How soon is your soon?
Question. You're talking about the 2019 panorama. You have not gotten payments for that as yet.
Officially, no.
And
When did you get paid
we're
for
talking like 20,000, 15, and 10 in terms of first, second, and third. And all right, what happened last year, 2018?
Well, last year we made them kind of guarantee us.
You made
before-
them kind of guarantee. Whoa.
Yes.
This is a competition. You're going out with your orchestras. You're putting on a show. Monies are collected at the gate. I don't understand. You made them anything.
Yeah,
That
we
doesn't
made them
compute.
guarantee that they're going to pay before the year is end.
But shouldn't that be accepted? You know, you go to a competition, you compete, you win the trophy, you win X amount of tens of thousands of dollars as per contract. I don't understand why I'm hearing that you have an issue in terms of getting paid. So when did you guys get paid last year? You were the champs for 2018.
When did we get paid?
For 2018,
In December.
yes.
December 17th, I think it was.
So 3 months after the panorama. Full payment?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 3 months after the fact. And right now, so there's no such thing as what I think goes on in Trinidad. They tend to get paid. Sometimes there was a time they actually gave them checks on stage. Yes, that happened a couple of years. I don't know if it still goes on, but they got checks at that point. But you guys have payment
Well,
challenges.
the problem is we don't really sign a contract stating all that in the contract, and that's why they could do that to us.
So why
They
don't
can
we
do that to you. The language is kind of odd.
Well, I mean, the reason is that there's no signed contract saying
No
stating
signed
basically.
contracts with
Okay,
Reactor.
we have to saying, okay, after Panorama 2019, this date, you getting paid 2 weeks after,
It
whatever.
sounds like there needs to be some, since word is not bond and there's no respect apparently, if you guys need legal representation or there needs to be contract, you could sign something.
Yeah,
bare minimum.
I agree because
This is
a lot
year
of us,
after year.
a lot of us gig, and I don't know now one person that would go on a gig and leave the gig without getting paid.
Not a $10,000,
Well,
I mean, not even
$20,000.
that. Like, you have junior panorama, for instance, where like
It's one thing if you're going to go into an event and the sign is just for a trophy,
point. Why can't we do that?
but if you are entering a competition and you are expected to be in receipt of your prize monies that would be dispersed almost immediately, 3 months after the fact. No.
It's acceptable business practice that we do every year.
Was that the longest you ever took to be paid, or was there a time it was longer?
No,
What was the longest time? What was the longest time?
a year.
So there was a time that you competed at a panorama behind the Brooklyn Museum with Reactor. It took you how long to get paid?
A year.
A year. That happened.
Yeah, where they paid them right
Several
before.
times
They
before.
paid them while people were moving racks into their pan yard for the next panorama.
Actually, it was just before we closed.
Oh yeah. It was just before they pulled for that.
we
Yeah.
get paid.
So you compete 1 year, or you competed 1 year, you were not in receipt of prize monies until the following year when it was time to pull for that year's competition. Is that accurate? Yeah? Okay guys, definitely business should
Yeah,
not...
because that's what, that's my main question.
Acceptable business practice. That's what we. I mean,
This is
My main
not
question is
business.
why? It's not
So-
business.
So basically,
That's a culture thing.
right. Like
Culture.
Gwen said,
But
no.
the promoter is not
Yeah, but what I'm
supposed
saying
to
is that that's a habit of the culture that we've developed. Like the culture is the unspoken of behavior that we accept. That's been the culture of their.
I just feel that
sound as if glutton for punishment. But go ahead.
Yes.
this that's what's happening
Because we
right
want
now
to
Yeah.
is something. It's a cycle. It's a cycle that was happening before
Yeah.
when we were in the players
When you
position.
were younger
Right.
in your teens.
When we were teens, this was the cycle that was
So
happening.
this has been
And
ongoing
now
for years.
Right. And now we're the ones that have
Inherited
grown up
bands.
and we're in a
It's
managerial position and there's players beneath us. This is the cycle that we're in right now that we're trying to break and beat to.
And what is interesting in the cycle, it's been with the same organization.
You catching your grandfather looks one.
Basically.
Okay.
Basically, I can't take a gig in Jersey if it's going to take me. I can't take a gig in New Jersey if it's going to cost me $80 for a taxi there and back, and take it for $100.
I think the biggest question.
It just has to be profitable. Whatever we're doing, it has to be profitable. Right now, it's not. It's more so brag rights. Yeah, I beat you this year. Whatever the case is, that's really all what it is. And we sacrifice. I think people on the outside don't understand how much we do sacrifice, how much people miss work.
That's interesting as you
Different-
mention that,
different
because
aspects of
still,
it.
from time to time, I'm sure you all may have requests for this, because we see such requests and generally we don't respond. But we do see requests for steel orchestras or pan players to perform for free.
Exposure. Yeah, that's the word. The trick word is
Yeah,
exposure.
still-
Yeah, but people die from
Yes.
exposure.
It's exposure.
That seems to be, I mean, you're not going to call
But you know.
conventional set of players and ask them to play for free. So not too sure what it is about pan
It's
that
racism.
people decide that free or
It's
exposure
racism.
or food
I'd rather
is
stay in my
payment
house.
enough.
It goes
Just
back to what we
racism.
were talking
It's
about.
like, I believe
If you
less of
offer
this
five-
instrument
if you-
because of the people that created it.
If you ask me for a gig and I give you 5,000, you gonna go to the next band, or I'll do it for 25.
So we're talking
That's
break
what's
down
going
the
on. No,
community.
that's what's going on.
Yeah, undercutting.
There's no standard. There's no standard. It's messing up the whole community.
Yes.
So basically, the way I see it, right? There has always been a love for the culture, a love for band, a love for music. There's always been that love.
And that's unchanging.
And right. And I think this whole panel that's here, everyone has different and multiple skill sets. And as we can see, a cycle has been going on for quite some time. For me personally, I'm going to speak for myself. It's not really about panorama, but it's about pan. It's about the instrument.
It's about music.
Right, it's about music. It's about the love. And I think what each and every single person sitting down here mindset is, they could correct me if I'm wrong, is to teach the younger ones coming up how to do something different that hasn't been done before, and to break that cycle. Whether it's appreciating music and learning skills, whether it's appreciating how to be a soloist, whether it's appreciating how to be a great graphic designer, great leader, great arranger. Understand? Everyone has skill sets, and right now it's just about trying to push forward and doing things that's different and breaking that cycle. That's what it has to be about. And I think that's what we're here to sit down and share with everyone. How things have been done before, and how to do things the right way, and how to do things different.
Any closing thoughts on breaking this cycle before we wrap up?
Need money. Need money.
No, we don't need money.
We
need money.
Because when you get money, you're going to do the same things that you did when you didn't have money. You have to learn new habits. It's not money. The issue is not money. It's not money. The issue is that we have to learn new tricks because we don't know what to do.
I have a closing thought. I think we're seeing the younger generation here, but there's still a couple of the older heads still running certain organizations and infiltrating the panorama scene, and they have this mentality of cutting ahead to get ahead.
What?
They have this mentality of cutting ahead to get ahead, and that needs to stop. Stop defamating people's character. Stop trying to defamate people's bands' characters, and just unite. Like, this is about Steelband, not Panorama, not about your own personal gain, but about the bands. Right? Let's come together. Cut out all the nonsense, because all you're doing is spinning top of months. You keep going back and doing the same thing over and over, and it's called insanity because you're not going to get any results. You're expecting different results, but nothing else is happening.
More than 40 years.
Right, exactly.
And you're not 40.
But yet still you stand up in a meeting and say everything is great. No, you ain't find nothing was wrong. Everything was great. This Panama was it was perfect. That's nonsense. Be real. Be real. Come together. Help us. You, especially the elders, you know what's going on. You know how this go. You've been treated and mistreated years and years and years.
Right.
Help us get out of this oppression. That's what it is. It's an oppression. But instead, cut out all that trying to bring us down. Like, kill that. It's dead now.
Marcus?
Yeah. I think we need to collectively try to reinvigorate ourselves in different ways of changing the game. Like, for instance, when BSO did Pan and Sweet, literally to break the cycle of literally we have nothing to do except Panorama every single year. And the occasional band launcher where by the 5th band launch and everybody gets sick of the music. But you have that. You have Pan Evolution, which broke the cycle of this, all these big established bands of 30, 40 years. Let's bring out a new band and just do things different. Even my man here with Bob's Music. Like, literally, we all of us, even in this circle right here, like, we've all found different ways of trying to, like, do things. Sticks, t-shirts, all of that. Even Mark with Pan Stars. You have different ways of, like, trying to just change little things to make a better tomorrow for the next generation coming up. And I find that, like, I think we all collectively just got stuck. Where Panorama, frankly, I have no qualms saying this. Panorama, especially for the past few years, has been trash. It's been us just accepting whatever happens and we just pushing forward. And I feel like that broke our psyche in a way that, like, well, we just gonna continue sludging on and hope for a better tomorrow. And we lost our fire collectively. And I think it's time that we just try to find new ways of making this pan culture, like, evolve. Pardon the pun, but evolve into a better tomorrow so that the next generation coming up, instead of them just like being on their phone until it's literally time to practice, or literally until the arrangers count into drill again, they actually want to do something like do uniforms or do decorations or sell like some small mom and pop thing outside of the yard to make a profit, or like do recording or be the next Wednesday Talks. Something to like continue this New York pan culture pushing. But we gotta reinvigorate that fire because it's out right now.
Yes, Mark.
I definitely agree with what he's saying. And my thing is, I kind of refuse to kind of take the blame for some of the stuff that he was mentioning. And I say that because I find it interesting, right, that nobody has really spoken about the governing body of the Steelband, so to speak, right? That is non-existent because here's my thing, right? For many years, we've kind of left it in the hands of those individuals, right? And for many years, I don't know. I mean, what's the outcome today? Why are we here today, right? There's clearly a reason why we're here. And
What's
at this
going to
point,
happen after today? After the
well,
camera's off, right?
what he said is accurate. Take the bull by the horns with those who are around right now. You understand what I'm saying? Because some of the same people Arnie was mentioning about who may go around slandering other bands and stuff. These are the people that represent us now. These are the people who have went and made connects with some of the important faces who see the steel band community as a whole, and also those who turn their back from the steel band community as a whole, right? You have a lot of businessmen, a lot of businesses, major corporations who refuse to even look at a steel band right now because past
Associations have been bad.
right. They didn't serve us justice at all. And so this is where we're at now. You know what I mean? And like he said, take the bull by the horns. That's how it has to be with the body is here.
Okay. Any more closing thoughts?
It's too much first generation of band still involved
Well,
in band.
in the younger
Heavily
generation.
rooted
right now.
in band and
Proud of
don't
the
want to
crew.
give up.
Say it, proud of the crew.
And you have to break that cycle because band reached third generation. Third generation being run by first generation in a
So
third
they want
generation
to say
road.
that they own the orchestras and they own the instruments, and that's always with the exception of Wayne and I'm not too sure who else. But the younger people and the arrangers and the managers don't own their bands. Wayne does. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's another band that you know of where there's someone as young as Mr. Bernard who's actually in control of his or her own instruments. Who's this? Control meaning if they own the instrument. You see, if you don't own your orchestra, that's where you have the older heads still involved, respect to them. But you know, it's like you need to have a coming together of minds. And
We need
that's
money, like I said, we need money.
You need money. Okay.
We need money.
You need money to get your own orchestra. Okay. And so we're talking business associations and partners.
I mean, we say we need money, but money is not going to change it.
You're going to do the same thing they did, man. We're doing it
2013,
now.
that's what you were saying. We lost everything. We was compensated a little bit. And we turned around and made Panorama in 2 weeks. No stands, no nothing.
Yeah.
Because we get some money. And we did the same thing we would have done if we didn't have that money. If we had the stands and everything, we would have done the same thing. But in 2 weeks we turn around, spend all the money that we got to go into the madness again. Which is was a good experience. It was a good experience. Yeah, it was a good experience. 2 weeks.
I think that every person in Brooklyn and every pan person in Brooklyn will agree the number one thing that we need to push against is homelessness of these pan yards. We need to work towards getting a home because it alleviates a lot of the other issues that we have with needing money if we have a home to do whatever we need to do. A home, not a rented, not
This is a
a
challenging
home.
time to find property
Right.
in Brooklyn.
But it's always been
when you say home, it's two levels of home because home could be
No, owning your own home. Sorry, owning your own home.
Owning
Thank
property.
you for catching me.
Okay, so owning property. So guys, we will be wrapping up, but we hope that if and when we can meet again next year at a post Labor Day event, for whatever that might be, that the conversation is going to be different.
Yeah, man.
Because this kind of conversation has been ongoing year after year, not in front of the cameras, but the frustration has been there, and there's been no change. Things have gotten, in some cases, worse and more disappointing. And now we have fantastic pan people, musicians, you guys who have grown up, some of you all, most of you all are frustrated. And you know, we're not supposed to be frustrated because you all were the young ones coming up. We don't want the frustration because we want the year of pan culture to live and expand. So something, we want to see a difference next year. Post Labor Day, whatever that might be.
well, you see that statement you're making post Labor Day.
I'm being very careful.
That's the problem because we are in Labor Day.
No, well, I'm saying post Labor Day, I'm saying, meaning a 365 or 366 year.
No,
Not
that's not.
necessarily Labor Day after a panorama. I'm talking about a year from now, calendar year. What might have been different throughout the year? If even there was not a panorama, what is going to be different, hopefully, for the pan community as a whole? So, huh?
Yeah, okay, so I catch it now.
Yeah, literally. So guys and girls. We thank you guys.
Thank you.
We need brains.
Yeah. Okay, let me take a group
This
shot on you.
group right here has brains. What's missing? Money.
Nah.
Money. 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 Any sponsors? Just give me